And a very warm welcome to another edition of My Top 12 here on Radio 1. I'm delighted to have with us on this Sunday afternoon one quarter of Bucks Fizz, no less. Cheryl Baker, welcome and thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Does this mean now that the other three quarters of Bucks Fizz won't be speaking to you for the rest of the week?
More than likely.
It's very good to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Let's get straight underway with your first record and then plenty of chat between you and me. What have you chosen to start with?
To start, I chose Blame It on the Boogie by the Jacksons. For a start, because it's a great dance record, and also because I just love the Jacksons.
Fair enough. One of two versions of a song that were out of the time, and that, of course, I think the bigger hit in this country in the end. So
I liked the other one as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he was Jackson as well, wasn't
Yeah, was it Mick Jackson or something?
I think it was. Let me take my mind back to a night in Worcester where I was doing a disco, and before I went out to do it, I thought to myself, hang on a moment, I'm not going anywhere until I watch the television. And on the television that night was a little contest, which you and your three partners in crime won, and everybody celebrated. And there was an Irishman going totally mad doing the commentary. And that, of course, was really the occasion that put Bucks Fizz on the map. I think a lot of people very cynically on that night thought, oh, here we go again. Another Eurovision band. We're going to have this record. It'll go up the charts. And they'll disappear into oblivion. But to your eternal credit, it's gone completely the other way, and it's been a fantastic success story. Was there any stage in those early days when the four of you were a bit worried that that's what might happen if things weren't planned well?
Well, the idea was straight after making your mind up, we thought we've got to change our music because you can't rely on making your mind up part 2, 3, 4 and 5 and so on. So we tried to change, and we released Piece of the Action, which was number 12. Then we released One of Those Nights, which was number 20, and we thought, oh dear, you know, single after single now is going to go steadily lower. So everybody forgets you. So we had a bit of a break, and we all got our heads together and said, right, you know, we've got to do something about it. So Andy Hill wrote Land of Make Believe, and you know, it went to number 1, so it took a upsurge again. It was great.
Is it good to look back on the Eurovision contest, though? Because whether you like it or not, I'm sure you'd agree with me that unfortunately it is a competition which is abused by everybody. Everybody goes, oh no, here it comes again.
Yeah, mind you, I know lots of people hate it, but also a lot of people love it. I loved it. I used to watch it every year, and I used to cry, especially if England won. And even like when Save Your Kisses for Me with Brotherhood of Man, when that won, I was in that competition in the English heat, the Song for Europe, and we lost to Brotherhood of Man by 2 points, so I could almost have been doing the Eurovision that year. And the fact that they won for Britain, I cried my eyes out, and we were just about to go on stage. Not thinking, oh dear, it should have been me, but thinking, oh, England have won again. And I think the patriotism in everybody comes out, even if the show could be terrible, but people like to see Britain winning instead of losing everything, which they usually do.
Record number 2, please.
Knock on Wood. Now, Knock on Wood, the original, the Eddie Floyd version, was a fabulous era for me. I loved it. But I really enjoyed the updated version that Amy Stewart did. I thought that was a really good way of doing it.
Classic Knock on Wood. I'm one of these cynics, Cheryl, who tends to think the original's always the best, but I do agree with you. It's a very good interpretation. It was certainly a very good radio record.
Yeah, I think it was. And once again, it's a good dance single, and I love dancing.
Now then, people who've joined us, I ought to tell you that Cheryl Baker from Bucks Fizz is our guest on this week's edition of My Top 12, and you will notice from the way the lady talks that she certainly doesn't come from Sunderland.
No.
In fact, you're very much a Londoner. Is that something you're proud of?
Yes, I am, very much, because I come from Bethnal Green, and I find all too often people say, oh, where do you come from? And I say, Bethnal Green, and they say, oh, never mind. If there's something, have you got an illness because you come from Bethnal Green?
Really? That's very rude.
And also, people think, you know, the way that you speak isn't good enough, which perhaps it isn't. But then I like, I don't particularly like the way I speak, but I like to hear people from Bethnal Green because they see I dropped my third then, I said Bethnal. I liked it, they just sound real because it's my home. When we won the Eurovision, we were in Dublin, but my parents and family were at home having a party, you know, and all the neighbours came round crying their eyes out, saying, oh, isn't it wonderful, our little girl won, you know. So it was smashing. I like to see them.
Must have been absolutely fabulous. Right, record number 3, and it comes this time from an American band.
Yeah, Toto. It's Rosanna, which is fairly recent, isn't it? But I think Toto are just fabulous, really very, very good musicians and great vocals, and I just love to hear it. Great summer song.
You wouldn't mind these lads doing backing to a few Bucks Fizz tracks,
Good
then?
grief, no, I wouldn't.
And Rosanna, Cheryl Baker. Baker of Bucks Fizz with me on this Sunday afternoon for this week's edition of My Top 12, and it's very good to have her with us. Do you see yourself perhaps as a spokesman for Bucks Fizz, or is that for four individual people all giving their own views?
No, maybe I talk more.
Well,
no, I think everybody, each of us does their own share of talking, but perhaps more me and Mike, because we've got the biggest mouths.
Well, there's honesty for you. Can't go fairer than that. Jay is sort of, am I right, the artistic and clothing chief?
Oh, very much.
As far as the outfits and the band are concerned.
Well, in the very beginning, we used to get professional help in to organise outfits and things, and we all sort of thought, well, maybe that'll suit some, maybe that won't, but these people know best. And Jay's opinions, she's got a very, very good artistic eye, and she'd look at something and she'd say, well, no, that isn't right, so why should we have to wear it? And in the end, she said, well, look, let me have a try at organising clothes and things, which she did, and she did very successfully. For instance, if she can't stand the heat, it was all dish rags and chamois leather and mops and things, and Jay did all that. She made it all, and that's probably our best outfit that we've ever had.
To be fair, when Bucks Fizz came along, you were very much the other end of the scale, which had people like the Sex Pistols and the Clash walking around rattling with chains and zips and all the rest of it. That sort of gear, I presume, hasn't ever appealed to you, or indeed the band.
Well, we do wear chains and zips, actually.
I don't think we ought to get into this. Let's play another record. Thank you very much indeed. And your next choice, Miss Baker.
Right then, it's Cocktails for Two by Spike Jones.
That's very nice of you. I'll have mine with ice.
It appeals to my soppy sense of humour.
It might appeal to mine as well. Here he is. Stupid boy. Spike Jones and Cocktails for Two. That's marvellous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
The sort of record you can play occasionally. I don't think you play it too often, actually.
Oh, no. But it had me laughing just then.
Well, mention for Sunday at 5 there. Reminder to you the brand new chart coming up right after this programme, after the news at 5 o'clock, with Tommy Vance. Talking of charts, Cheryl, do you get in a state of panic when a record comes out, goes into the charts?
Yeah, no. It's terribly nerve-wracking. That night, the Monday night, you probably didn't sleep very well. And the Tuesday morning, you're just waiting by the phone for your manager or your record company to phone with the chart position. And if you've gone up, especially by some sort of substantial amount, it's great, you feel really in a good mood. But if you've stayed the same, or if you've gone down, oh dear, it's terrible. People couldn't believe it.
Next record from a lady who, well, I remember the beginning of her career because I played her music a lot on the radio, and I had high hopes for Judy Zook, and I suppose I really ought to continue to have high hopes, but really she struggled an awful lot over the last couple of years.
I think it's such a shame. You get some brilliant singers, a lot of female singers. They have a couple of hits. Also Kiki D. They deserve so much better, and you never hear from them from one year to the next, you know. Such a shame. But this particular song, the vocals, I think, are lovely. That's for you. Here they come again, here they come again, every day, for love and affection.
Acapella vocals and the odd string quartet thrown in as well. Judy Zook and For You. It's a beautiful piece of music.
It's lovely.
I'm sorry to say this, Cheryl, but I think you're a romantic at heart.
I am, I'm afraid.
The wonderful world of the music business, as we've said already on this programme, has been very good for Bucks Fizz. But how are the four of you thinking at the moment about the future?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I'd love to do is act some way, or present. Yeah, I'd love it. And I think it would have to be something to do with humour, because I don't think I'd be very good at keeping a straight face. Well,
you've already had sort of humour in your life, because I hear that once you sang in the same band or worked in the same band as Mike Reed. I mean, that qualifies as
yeah, that's true.
Let's get that little bit of your past out of the way. It is true, because it's a story that's often flaunted around.
Yeah, it is true. Yes. That's going back to when I was 19, approximately. And I was in another band with a girl and another fella, and we were auditioning for another guy, and Mike came along. We were auditioning in Stratford, and he lived in Woking or somewhere at the time, so he came a long way. And really, all that we ever did as that band, we rehearsed for months. But we found that two liked folk music, and Mike and I used to go off, and he used to strum on his guitar, and we used to sing Beatles numbers and things, you know. And the group never actually worked. We just used to rehearse.
We are finally getting the truth about this story.
I don't actually know why we broke up, but the next I heard of him, he was on Radio Luxembourg, then to follow with Radio 1, and I was in a band called Coco. So we both had some degree of success, which was lovely to see. I was really pleased for him.
Very nice.
And for me.
You meet now on an entirely different level, and I would imagine guesting on Superstore with him on a Saturday. Must have been great fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's ever so strange to speak to somebody formally when you've known them so informally.
Absolutely. And before we go any further, let's have another record.
Where are we? Oh, right. Now this. Well, it was just a lovely song, and it's all dreamy and romantic, and it doesn't remind me of any bloke, but it's just so nice. It's Colin Bluntstone and wonderful.
We were just being very enthusiastic about that record, and indeed about the man who was singing it. Colin Bluntstone, a song incidentally written by Rod Argent, who was the keyboard player with the Zombies, with whom Colin came to prominence in the 60s. A great band, very underrated band. He's got one of those very pure voices, hasn't he? He's
got such a lovely voice. As you were saying earlier, he doesn't seem to have any difference with his falsetto voice. Lovely man to listen to.
Tell me about the harmony work that you do with Bucks Fizz. How does it work out?
Well, actually, all the female harmonies I do most of naturally, and Jay sings more lead lines because, for one thing, she's got a deeper voice than me, and a lot of our songs are written in boys' keys. Andy Hill. Even if it's a girl's single, like when we did If You Can't Stand the Heat, It was written in a boy's key, so Jay and I sang the lead on it, and it was Don't Tell Me Lies, really low and breathy. But you try and sing that on stage with an enormous PA man, and a blaring band behind you, and it was ever so difficult, and we were ending up sort of shouting, where it's supposed to sound ever so breathy and come up and see me sometime. It sounded more like Hilda Ogden.
Stanley? What about the rest of the repertoire now, Cheryl? I mean, do you feel now that Bucks Fizz has progressed sufficiently to want to just do your own material?
I don't know. See, there are some smashing old songs. Even now, like, we've had three albums out and 9 singles, and we've got the 10th just coming out. So really, that's enough for any show. And the people that come to see us are generally fans that know the music, you know. But we do a rock medley, which contains 5 or 6 numbers. And I thoroughly enjoy doing it because it's an interpretation of someone else's song that you like to do. And I think it makes it a bit more interesting. And also, the audience recognise the song. So apart from I think it makes a change from them, for them, as well.
Right. Good. We're now going to play some Steely Dan. I'm very pleased about that because I've been a long-time fan of theirs. From the album Can't Buy a Thrill, but why have you chosen this particular song?
Well, I rave over Steely Dan, and particularly the albums like Can't Buy a Thrill and Pretzel Logic and the older ones. I thought they were fabulous. But I like this one because Donald Fagen sings most of the vocals, isn't he? The lead vocals. But David Palmer, I think, sang this, and I thought his voice was really, really nice. I think he sang it really well.
David Palmer doing the vocals on Dirty Work from the album Can't Buy a Thrill from Steely Dan, who sadly are no longer. What about free time, Cheryl? What do you like doing when you relax and get away from the band?
When I have free time, I see my family a lot, and I troll about, I suppose. I don't do anything. I don't do anything.
Phrase.
I don't go into town. I hate coming into town and going in all the silly nightclubs and things. I'm not that sort of person. I prefer to go and see good friends, have a nice meal somewhere, and relax.
Interesting observation, that, because the business tends to centre, I suppose, around the wonderful nightlife of London and the
That's
other
why
big
I like
cities.
To get away from it.
What about going on tour? Do you find that very hard work?
Well, I think my favourite's working in the studio, but when we do tour, I thoroughly enjoy it. But when it's, say, a 2-month tour and you're doing 5 or 6 nights a week, after a while it takes its toll and you really think, oh dear, I wish this was coming to an end sooner than it is. But generally, like for instance at the moment we're at the Coliseum in St Austell, and I'm really enjoying myself.
What about the appeal, though, of Bucks Fizz? Because it's very broad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's grown. When we do appear in concert anywhere, you see punk rockers in the audience sometimes, and you either see these blokes sort of 20-odd years old, all dressed up in leather and, you know, the Hells Angels look or whatever. I'm not much into that, I don't understand it. But it's really good to see such a cross-section of audience. And you always see the kids with their mums and dads, but it's great to see adults as well. And we get lots of letters in the fan club. I'm really pleased, you know, that we've gained that much of an audience.
I bet you've had some funny letters.
I have. Good grief, you ought to see some of them.
Right, next record.
Oh, blimey, this one. This is my favourite lady singer, and she if anyone influenced me, she did, because if ever I'd imagine myself singing on my own, I could imagine myself singing like this lady, only far worse. It's Joni Mitchell, and the particular track I chose, it's Free Man in Paris.
Well, she's been on this series. You're in good company. Joni Mitchell, I'm a delightful free man in Paris. Great voice.
Oh, she's brilliant. My hero.
Right. Let's look ahead to the rest of this year of 1983. What have you got planned? You're working in Cornwall at the moment.
Well, actually, at Christmas, or from the 27th of December until the 31st, or possibly even longer, we're at the Apollo Victoria in London.
Oh, you're in season for Christmas then?
Oh, yes.
Very nice.
Oh, yes.
Very nice.
Apart from that, I would imagine we'll tour next year, but we haven't actually organised one yet.
Right. Next record, please. And I think we might have heard this before somewhere.
Oh, this is lovely. This is one of those songs, I think it's a summery song again. It's the sort of song you can listen to and never ever get fed up with, and it's Jerry Rafferty and Baker Street.
One of the best radio records of the last few years. Not a bad song, really. Jerry Rafferty and Baker Street. Always a pleasure to play that on the radio. My top 12, and our guest is Cheryl Baker. And I have to tell you, for those of you that aren't too close to the radio, you probably can't see, she's actually peeling at the moment because she's been in the sun too much.
3 days of sun and I peel. Serves me right.
We're going to play a record now, which I've never ever played on my top 12, and I'm very pleased you've chosen this. This was, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, quite a big hit in the United States of America. For a guy, until this came along, I don't think I'd ever heard of. He was a completely new name. But well done for picking it. Tell us what it is.
Well, to just tell you what it is, I'll tell you why I picked it.
No, they're both.
All right. I heard it on some radio station somewhere up north when I was touring with Coco, the band I was with before. And I thought what a lovely song it was. And every time we went to do all the local radio interviews and that, I said, have you got this record? And they said, oh, we've never heard of it, but they looked for it and sometimes found it, sometimes didn't. But I loved it. And a friend of mine went to the States and saw that it was a big hit and bought his album back for me. And I think it's my favourite record of all time. And it's Bluer Than Blue by Michael Johnson. Bluer than
Well, I haven't heard that on the radio for a long time, so thank you very much for picking that.
That was lovely.
Have you got an instant ear for songs? I mean, you're one of those people that compulsively goes mad the first time you hear a record and sort of...
Some of them, yeah. I did with this. I did with Rosanna. When I was played Rosanna by Toto, a friend of mine had the album. He bought it from the States before they'd done anything here. And I thought, oh, Christ, that's really, really lovely. But they're generally easy listening songs that I go crackers on. Big hits here. Big hits. That sounds funny.
Got very big hits.
Big hits here. Like the modern sort of songs, I don't find... they take a few times to be played before I actually pick up on them.
Do you buy a lot of records? That's what I wanted to ask you.
I buy more albums, but there's sometimes that I buy singles. What was that Squeeze one? Oh, Labelled with Love. Mm-hmm. That when I heard that the first time, once again, that's easy to listen to, and I thought it's just lovely.
What about your own songs? Because that was what I was really coming to. We've mentioned Making Your Mind Up a few times, as we surely should. After you performed it for the 1,287th time, you might think to yourself, oh no, it's our national anthem again, which it very much is, of course.
Well, at the time when we did it, it was a big hit all over the world, and at that time it was very tedious, because it was the only single we'd had out, so we didn't have any others to compare with, and then we did other singles, and it was all right, whenever we do the act, we put Making Your Mind Up in. And I must be honest that sometimes you think, oh dear, Making Your Mind Up. But most of the time, it's just lovely. As soon as the drums start at the beginning, which all the kids recognise, the audience just stand to their feet and clap and dance and run to the front. And I think it's just lovely.
Right, we have 2 to go, and the first one comes from a band who I think have come up with some remarkably good songs over the last few years.
Now, this is totally out of context with my other favourites, all my lovely dreamy songs and things. But these, I think, are my favourite band at the moment. And they have been for how many years they've been going. They're just a lot of fun. I think their videos are incredible, especially the video to this particular song. They just make me laugh. It's Madness and House of Fun.
House of Fun from Madness. We had Suggsy on the programme not so very long ago. Very, very interesting fellow, and he chose some good records.
Oh, did he?
Have you enjoyed this?
I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Good. We've enjoyed having you here. You've got to rush off to Cornwall now, because you're currently doing a short run, a short season down in Cornwall.
Yeah, we've got another week left. This is our day off, actually, so I can take my time getting back. But from Monday until next Saturday, we're in the Coliseum.
Is that enjoyable, doing a sort of fairly lengthy period of time in one place?
Oh, it's lovely. It's such a pleasure not to actually have to pack your bag in the morning and go on to the next place, drive 2 hours in the coach, and it's very, very nice.
I've often said to people on this programme, Cheryl, that one of the sad things about touring is that you have so little time, really, to take in the local area, and I would imagine you're the sort of person that would enjoy wandering around one of our great cities in this country and getting to know a bit about it. But you can't do it, can you, really?
Well, I mean, the most you can get is about an hour or two walking around the shops or whatever, but you just don't have enough time to see places, and it's such a shame because we go to some lovely parts of the UK, and I do love the countryside. I love to see it. Mind you, we do see it from the window of the coach, so it's not too bad.
We've got, sadly, to the end of the programme. We're going to finish with a band from that great city of Manchester, Sad Cafe, you've chosen as your last record. You've told us a fair bit about what's gone on in the past and, indeed, what's going to happen in the future. Is there one single objective that you personally would like to achieve? You mentioned acting earlier on. Is that serious? I mean,
yes, it is.
Happen to have any directors listening this afternoon who'd be interested?
I'd like to see Bucks Fizz act, but personally I'd like to... I mean, I shan't sing all my life, or I hope I won't sing all my life, and I'd like to still be in TV. I think I'd miss it terribly not to do something entertaining, and I would certainly like to act some way. I'd like to do films. That'd be great. Do a musical or something like that.
Miss Baker is available for offers. You happen to be listening this afternoon. And before you go, you will promise me just one thing, won't you?
Oh, I don't know. It depends if it's... What is it?
You're not ever going to record a duet with Mike Reid, are you?
No. He'll never get that pleasure.
That's the finite quote of the afternoon. Right, last record, and tell us why you've chosen it.
Right then. Now, this band, I was actually dating a DJ from Manchester, and he used to rave about this band, Sad Cafe, and say how well they should do, but they haven't had any success yet. And he played me lots of demos and stuff that they'd done, and I thought they were excellent. And then when this single came out, I knew they were excellent, and it's Everyday Hurts.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Pleasure.
I saw the lamplight from your window.
Everyday Hurts from Sad Cafe concludes this week's edition of My Top 12 with our special guest, Cheryl Baker of Bucks Fizz. The programme was produced by John Sparrow, and a reminder to you that this time next week, my guest will be Gary Kemp of Spandau Ballet. But now, with the time on Radio 1 approaching 5 o'clock, a reminder that after the news, Tommy Vance.